Ramesh Irugal Bandaran joins us now for the latest in international news.
Good evening and welcome to the News First International Desk. Two French journalists held hostage by the Taliban in Afghanistan for 18 months have arrived in France, flying to an airport near Paris. Cameraman Steven Taponier and reporter Herb Gesquier were freed in circumstances that remain unclear.
The pair were kidnapped with Afghan colleagues near Kabul in December 2009 while on assignment for French TV. They said they were both in good health, they were never threatened with death or never beaten. The two Frenchmen who were working for French state television network France 3 had become some of the longest held Western hostages in Afghanistan. The pair, who had been embedded with French troops in Afghanistan, decided to gather material from an area known locally as the Black Hole. In April 2010, after posting a video of the hostages on the internet, the Taliban said they had submitted a list of prisoners to French authorities that they wanted free in exchange for the two journalists.
Meanwhile, Greece's parliament is to hold a second round of voting on its austerity program, which it needs to implement to secure the country further financial support.
The EU said the vote was a retreat from the grave scenario of default. Public reaction has been very hostile and the debate has been accompanied by strikes and violent protests. Clashes continued on Syntagma Square outside Parliament overnight as police fired tear gas at stone-throwing youth. Protesters set fire to a post office in the Finance Ministry building on another part of the square. However, it is not yet clear how many votes will need to be held to push the measures through. The vote will enable Greece to receive the latest tranche of €110 billion loan in time instead of defaulting. But analysts say the real challenge will come after the loan is secured, but there is concern about whether the austerity measures can be effectively implemented in the face of so much public hostility.
Over in the Middle East, African Union Commissioner-Chief John Ping says France's decision to airdrop weapons to Libyan rebels is dangerous and puts the whole region at risk. Ping states that the action risks creating problems similar to those in war-torn Somalia.
France has confirmed it dropped arms to Berber tribal fighters in the mountains southwest of the capital, Tripoli. Some analysts said the move might contravene the UN Security Council embargo on arms supplies to Libya. News of France's weapons delivery to the rebels emerged in a newspaper report yesterday. The newspaper said France, a leading force in the NATO operations in Libya, did not inform its allies about the move. The report said the weapons included rocket launchers and anti-tank missiles, although French officials would only confirm light arms and ammunition had been dropped to rebel fighters.
Police in Cairo fired tear gas at hundreds of stone-throwing Egyptian youth yesterday after a night of clashes that left more than 1,000 people injured. The violence began after families of people killed in February's uprising held an event in Cairo late on Tuesday in their honor. Other relatives arrived to complain that the names of their own dead were not mentioned at the ceremony. A magnitude 5.4 earthquake hit central Japan today and injured 9 people. The Japan Meteorological Agency said that the epicenter of the earthquake, which struck at 8:16 a.m. Japanese time, was in the Nagano prefecture, about 120 kilometers from Tokyo. Thousands of tourists from across China flocked to Beijing today as the country prepared to celebrate the 90th anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communist Party. A huge decoration of the hammer and sickle dominated Tiananmen Square, but no obvious additional security was present ahead of the anniversary, which will be held tomorrow. Amid mounting anxiety over radiation hotspots over 65 kilometers from the crippled nuclear power plant in Fukushima City, officials recently announced plans to equip children with radiation monitors after the summer holiday ends in September. Reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant went into meltdown after an earthquake hit northeastern Japan on the 11th of March, forcing 80,000 residents to evacuate from its vicinity. A childless French couple who are zoo managers have adopted a 13-year-old female gorilla named Digit, whom they take home every night after she has spent the day entertaining young visitors at the zoo enclosure. The civilians who stayed just next door to Digit's cage took in the 120-kilogram gorilla when her biological mother refused to breastfeed her.
Joining us now with the very latest from the sporting world is Ramesh Bandara. Good evening, Ramesh.
Good evening, Ravi.
Now, Ramesh, what do you have in store for us today on Sports First?
Well, Ravi, a new interim committee is to be appointed to run Sri Lanka cricket, while two names have been proposed for tomorrow's game against England in place of retired all-rounder Sanath Jayasuriya. We will be taking a look at these stories in a moment after taking a look at our top story tonight. The Commonwealth Games Federation Evaluation Commission, which concluded its visit to Sri Lanka, convened a media briefing today. At the briefing, the chairperson of the commission, Louis Martin, said that she was impressed with Hambantot's vision to host the 2018 Commonwealth Games.
Over the last 4 days, there have been a series of high-level discussions with representatives of Sri Lankan government, local governments, as well as senior representatives of the bid team. We have been to Hambantota and met the local people and those who are already doing the work necessary to build this city and region. We have seen the tremendous recent progress and have no doubt about the resolve to deliver the necessary infrastructure by 2016. We have been impressed with the vision for Sri Lanka and Hambantota and now have a clear view of where the Commonwealth Games would fit within that vision. Overall, we can tell you that the proposal of staging the Commonwealth Games in the Hambantota is an exciting one.
At the briefing, a model for the proposed Games Village for the Commonwealth Games was also unveiled to the media. The host city for the 21st Commonwealth Games will be announced on the 11th of November following a vote by members of the Commonwealth Federation. Sri Lanka is bidding along with Australia to host the 2018 Commonwealth Games. The Ministry of Sports announced today that a new interim committee will be appointed to run Sri Lanka cricket. According to a release issued by the Ministry, a special media briefing in this regard will be held tomorrow. The Minister of Sports and the new interim committee members will be present at this briefing. Meanwhile, the International Cricket Council has come down hard on cricket boards run by government-appointed committees. The ICC concluded its week-long annual conference in Hong Kong today. A groundbreaking decision that was arrived at during this meeting was to impose sanctions on national cricket boards which failed to conduct elections and which are being influenced by their national governments. It was decided at the conference that member nations should adhere to the principles of modern sporting governance and that national sports bodies should be autonomous and free from the interference of their governments in the administrations of their affairs. A release issued at the conclusion of the conference also highlights the importance of fair elections being held to elect officials to national boards. The release notes that all member nations should implement these provisions before the annual conference in 2012 and added that if the national cricket boards do not adopt these reforms, sanctions will be imposed on them after 2013. According to ICC Chief Executive Harun Logat, this is a significant step towards achieving best practice. The release also reveals that all member nations had agreed to these constitutional amendments. Manager of the Sri Lanka cricket team, Anura Tendulkar, says that either Dinesh Chandimal or Dimuth Karunaratne could play in the second one-day encounter against England tomorrow in place of Sanath Jayasuriya, who retired from international cricket. The one-day international of the 5-match series will be played in Leeds tomorrow. Sri Lanka suffered a 110-run defeat on the Duckworth-Lewis method in the rain-affected first one-day encounter.
A selection hasn't been made. We are going to practice this afternoon, and it's only after practice, once we have a look at the wicket and assess the pitch situation and the conditions, that the final selection would be made. In place of Jayasuriya, there will have to be another batsman who would have to come in. Could be anything between the two youngsters, Dinesh Chandimal or Dimuth Karunaratne.
The manager of the Sri Lankan cricket team also commented on the injury which Sri Lankan skipper T.M. Dilshan suffered during the recent Test series.
The physical fitness levels of the team are very good. We had the thumb injury to the captain T.M. Dilshan, and that too is turning out very well. It's healing very well. And it shouldn't be a problem for him to play in tomorrow's game as well.
The first one-day international between Sri Lanka and England, which was affected by rain, saw the 50-over game being reduced to 32 overs a side.
The forecast for tomorrow is rain from time to time, and that is the experience we've had on this tour so far, that it's been raining from time to time and play has been interrupted on so many occasions. And now the players are used to these conditions here.
And that brings to the end tonight's edition of Primetime News. Remember, we're just a click away on www.newsfirst.uk or www.ethalay.com. I'm Kumarini Rajakaruna.
And I'm Ravi Gamage. Thanks for watching. Good night.